Or not? Oh, I talk loud anyway. I don't need this. Yes, sir. So I think part of what we're going to talk about today, and I've got a few handouts here, and I mean a few. I don't have 600. So if there's a family and you're serious about making some purchases and having this, great. If you just want information, you can get all this online. And again, for example, I'll just give you one quick example. The Modern Essentials book will tell you how to use Digestive, and it'll say you can put it on your topically, you can put it on your feet. Okay, so if you have a little baby, and they're going to stick their fingers and stuff and stick it in their eyes, that is not good. That's one place you do not want to stick any oils in your eye. You will know it. Okay? But for example, you can put it on the bottom of your foot, which is the largest pores in your body, which will absorb really quickly, or you can put it in your belly button. And you won't see that kind of information in the book. So there's a few things like that in the classes that you can get, and we'll be sending some of those out on those emails. Who has the sign up? Who signed up? All right, so just raise your hand. I think it's right back here. Just pass it back to the next person, and if you look around, see who the next person is you need to pass it to, so we're efficient with that, okay? If that's easier, do whatever's easier. Okay, so we're going to be talking a little bit, and I'm going to, again, defer a lot of this to Brother Leon, but what are some of the top oils that you need to have for emergency purposes, okay? And I'll just give one little snippet here on one little topic real quick. We've all talked about On Guard. We could still talk about it for an hour. There's a whole lot more stuff that we could explain. For example, there's toothpaste up here. Okay, well, why would that be important? If I'm putting the cinnamon and things in my mouth and killing a lot of bacteria here, and I'm using that every day, it's yet another exposure to the On Guard, which is going to help me fight off infections and things like that. There are several other products I believe he's going to speak about here. We've got setting up here. But let's just say that after you cannot attain medical treatment for some reason, you don't have the ability to go to a doctor right now for some reason. I can think of a couple. And for a long period of time, you can't go to the doctor. And he's hammering a tent stake or something, and he gets his arm or his leg cut open significantly. First thing the doctor is going to do, besides that initial treatment, is that they're going to put you on antibiotics. Thank you. Does that make sense? They're going to put you on antibiotics. How long? Okay. And so if you were to cut yourself or have some significant wound, how long would you need this? In other words, one bottle, if that's all you had, so that's where Brother Leon said yesterday that he stocks this stuff. We have, and you saw a pastor, he said, I don't know how many bottles of this type or this type or this type. So in my opinion, this is something that you can use, but don't look at it that you need one bottle. I would significantly, highly recommend that you have more than one bottle of some of these oils. So Brother Leon is going to speak a little bit about that. I'll turn it over to him.
Today is going to be a add-on. It's going to be 102. Yesterday was the basics. We're going to go more in depth to the emergencies. And we're going to focus on not only the ladies' issues, hormones and things like that. We're just going to briefly touch it. Motherhood, babies, things of that nature. And then after that, we're going to refer to the issues that more men are interested in, infections. And you're like, why are you worried about that? During the Civil War in America, more people died from infection than bullets. So you may have been jabbed by a bayonet and you survived, but it became septic, and that took out your great-grandparents. So yeah, Vietnam, there are still people who lost their lives. The punji stakes, you remember those things that they would, 11% of fatalities were attached just to those punji stakes. They would dip them in poop. Americans would step in them, fall in a hole, and they would die just from something that simple. So if you think, oh, I have my bullets, I have my body armor, this is body armor for your body, okay? And this is at the microscopic level. And so these oils can protect you before and after. And so just like it's not prudent to go into combat having just ate, because you will vacate both directions. And that's what they do with the militaries. They don't have them eat right before they go into combat, because they know that there's going to be puke involved. So you don't want to have that along with food and everything else. So just like if you know you're going to be having some issues, you're going to be at security and you have incoming rounds, you'd want to have protection as much as possible. Body armor, windows, sandbags, everything you have. This is the same thing. Have the same sentiment and same mentality. The more protection you have for yourself and your babies, because the more protection you have and the more knowledge you have, and in his case, the way he described the stocks, having the stocks available, and not in all one location. Does it make sense to keep all your ammo in one room? If you have a fire, tornado, flood, you've lost it all. And now you're just like the person who never prepared, because you don't have it anymore, whether it was stolen, whether it was burned up in a fire. So it's important to diversify. Diversify your ammo, diversify your food stocks, your water, your medical, all the stuff. If you have secondary locations, place it there. It's called caching. And so if you have relatives that you know and trust, preferably believers, and I say, hey, I want to leave a lot of my stuff with you. And if you want to leave some of your stuff with me, we can do that. So we have backups. But if you don't have a backup, you're on your own. And you know about parachutes. Why do they have 2 parachutes? Because if one fails, right? Well, my very first jump, it failed. And it wasn't in the military. It was a civilian jump in Albuquerque. It failed. So I really got into preparedness that day, because if I would have died, I look at my little kids and say, because I wasn't prepared, you aren't here. And they're like, why? So we always have backups. They always say in the preparedness industry, 1 is none, 2 is 1. And make sure they're identical. Don't have one version of this and another version of that, because you won't be able to cannibalize if you need to. So pertaining to the oils, we're going to focus on the emergency oils that are most important. So this is a PDF that you can access online. And so in their eyes, the most important ones are clove, frankincense, lavender, lemon, lemongrass, melaleuca, oregano, and peppermint. And then on the other side is On Guard, Breathe, Deep Blue, Purify, and Terra Shield. Now, what makes these emergency oils? Because of the fact that infection, waterborne viruses, waterborne bugs, Giardia, Giardia is also called beaver fever, and it's pretty prominent here in America. It's in 90% of the water in America, fresh water. And so this organism can get in your stomach, causes you to have diarrhea, and you're like, what's the big deal about diarrhea? It leads to dehydration and then fatality. So drinking bad water has a huge impact on your survivability. So you can have the best night vision goggles, but if you're sick and you're throwing up, you're going to be very ineffective in the battle, and you're going to be worse for your spouse and your children. So now you've abandoned your kids because something as simple as bad water. And the same thing with the women too. If you don't boil the water 5 minutes at a rolling boil, then now, if you don't do that, that water now is tainted. You've given it to your kids, children, and now they're going to be sick. And more kids die internationally because of dehydration and diarrhea than any other cause. Accidental drowning, all of it. So diarrhea is prominent. Over 2 million people die each year because of diarrhea. It's preventable, but it is terrible. You can find these stats on WHO. It stands for the World Health Organization, and they have all the fatalities worldwide and how they're broken down. And it's still, the top 3 are heart attack, cardiogenic issues, and then cancer, and then diabetes. So those can be prevented, especially diabetes. Now there's type 1 and then type 2, but in America it's normally food-based. So sugar and salt are the 2 most prominent drugs that we consume of, immensely, and that has a huge impact on hypertension. And so you can decide how your lifestyle will dictate your lifespan and the quality of life you have. So I'll start off with frankincense. So frankincense is one that if you don't have a clue which oils to reach for, that one will address it. There's over 650 known constituents in in that oil. So it takes into account inflammation. If you have if you have swelling or any kind of inflammation, frankincense you can apply topically right on there and cover it up with your hand or your body part, and it will help reduce the inflammation. It is phenomenal for arthritis as well. It is naturally an carcinogen and anti-tumoral. And so look that up on pubmed.gov. I said this multiple times yesterday. If you have a piece of paper, take notes, and you can hear it and you can see it firsthand. You don't have to believe me or Brother Luke, but you can find out this information online. So frankincense is one of the 4 oils that Dr. Hill, who's our chief medical officer, recommends everybody use every day. And they are lemon, frankincense, On Guard, and you remember the last one? No. Balance, exactly. No, yes. So Balance and On Guard are 2 proprietary ones by doTerra, and they have in them wild orange, cinnamon, clove, rosemary, and eucalyptus. Those 5 oils were in the original thieves' oil that was done during the Middle Ages when the bubonic plague ravaged Europe, and between 20 and 50 million people died. And it came from a pest, a vector. It came in from Middle East, from the Mongolian area, came on the boats, and it infected Europe. And it wasn't just a 4 or 5 year window. It came in waves, and it happened hundreds of years. So it decimated countries and came back again, and it would drop down and come right back up. And so you can look this up. The number of people who died from it was massive. And so it was a bacteria, and most bacteria are not that virulent, but this one was specifically, and they have bubonic plague in Colorado and throughout America with the prairie dogs. So you see those little adorable rodents, those are just target practice in my eyes because and I love all God's creations, but when I think of something that can kill a third of this room, imagine this. Everybody sitting in the blue seats dies tomorrow. That would have a huge impact on your emotions, wouldn't it? Especially knowing that some of them are brothers and relatives. So by having the protection, so these oils can actually counter bacteria and viruses and parasites and fungus. So with frankincense, if you are ever in doubt and not knowing which one to use, and if you don't have the book, reach for frankincense. It's antiseptic, it's antibacterial. Certain oils are more antiviral than others. So the citrus oils are very antiviral. So lemon, lime, tangerine, any of the citrus oils. And the reason I brought up the On Guard aspect was because, do you remember seeing those pictures? They look like penguins with a long pointed nose. They found out that there were people who were grave robbers. They would go into the houses after the people died, and they would rob and they would loot. And what they did was they had these same oils and same herbs, and they would put them in that nose, that long pointed snout, and that would allow them to breathe the vapors in, and it would kill the bacteria that were airborne. And so the Spanish authorities caught these people in the houses and said, "Here, we will not torture you and kill you until you tell us how you were able to survive this pestilence." And so they described what they had in their complete recipe. Then after they found it and they tested it, then they killed them. But they didn't torture them, but that's, okay. So that's the government telling you, what they'll do. But that's how effective it was. So that's why thieves' oil, or in this case, On Guard, which has wild orange instead of lemon in it, is highly effective. So it's great for bacteria and viruses. And you can take it sublingually. And the way you do it is you just lean your head back, drop it under your tongue, hold it for as long as you can, and a lot of times children cannot handle it because the clove and cinnamon oil are kind of spicy. So if it's too spicy for you, you can put it on the bottom of the feet, and your feet are the least sensitive, and they have the pores are twice as large as anywhere else on the body, so the absorption is much faster. So the way you do this is you just lean it back, assuming it's a full bottle. You can see some people say, "Can I get a sample?" So in essence, that's how you do it. You just lean it back, you hold it under your tongue as long as you can, and it gets in sublingually. And So the pores under your tongue can mainline to your circulatory system much faster than anything other than getting an injection. So that's how fast it is. But it may be too spicy, and so you don't have to worry about it. If you like spicy food, great. But cinnamon, even in this book right here, says all testing to date has yet to find a bacteria, virus, or fungus that can exist in the presence of cinnamon oil. It is that powerful. And so when you combine all 5 of those, they have the synergy involved that allow it to kill bacteria and virus. And so when you're traveling, use the oils. When you're in a mass congregation, use the oils. You may use it maybe once a half an hour, once an hour. If I'm on a plane, which would pretty much be the population of this entire room, you have all the bugs, and they're not all from the same, they're not all believers. And so you have every bug known to man. And they travel typically via contact. So you get up to the boarding gate, and you're standing in line with 300 other people, and everybody touches the door, and they touch the airplane, and they're praying over it, saying, please get me where I'm going, right? And so you have all these bugs that get passed on to their children, and then they walk up to their friends saying, hi, nice to meet you. And like, don't shake my hand, okay? So you have people who have the fecal material on their hands, E. coli, right? You see all these, you see it on TV, salmonella, all these diseases. Remember when Jack in the Box had that scare before, and the salads, that. And so, these people are defecating in the field, they're putting it in a container, and they ship it off to America. And those bugs are festering. So you can put these oils in a bottle, a glass bottle, spray it on the salad, the produce, fruit and vegetables, on guard, and let it sit for 3-5 minutes, then wash it off with pure water. Then you'll be able to kill it before it gets to your tongue. And so that's important, and most people disregard that, but it doesn't matter if it's organic, they still have those same issues. So always wash your vegetables, and if you have the oils, that's even better. And it's going to be imperative in a grid down scenario because your water will no longer be chlorinated. You understand that, right? And precisely, exactly. And so that's where the boiling of water is crucial. And if you think, well, I'm just going to store bleach. Well, bleach has a shelf life if it's liquid based. If you buy hypochlorite, it's powdered. You can always add it to water, and that's indefinite. So you can buy 5 pounds of that. It's cheaper than bleach. It's much lighter and much easier to carry. So I would definitely get some hypochlorite and add that to your stash. So you don't waste, or you don't use the oils when you can use it on humans. You use the chemicals to disinfect water for bathing, for washing dishes and things like that. You know what I'm saying? So save the valuable ones to keep your friends and loved ones alive as compared to something as simple as bleach. So the other oils in there. So clove. Clove is phenomenal for dental issues. And many people disregard the impact of, dental injury. If you get an infection in your mouth, it is the dirtiest orifice in your entire body. And so if you can eliminate those bacteria and becoming septic, as in it gets into your bloodstream and it starts to fester. And have you ever heard of septicemia? Okay, septicemia, it still kills people in America in the hospital. That's how toxic it is. And because if it gets so bad and down the path, it'll still kill the person. Even though they have them hooked up to vancomycin and every known antibiotic, and it's still. Yeah, and MRSA is a great example. How many people have heard of MRSA? Methicillin resistant. How many people have been exposed to it personally, or have had friends that have had it? Over 32,000 people die each year from MRSA, which is methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus. It is super staph. And so it's just a bacteria, but it is so aggressive that it kills 32,000. More people die from MRSA than they die from AIDS here in America. So, and you're like, well, we're sophisticated. We have all the protection. Talk to those 32,000 people who've talked to their relatives, and they'll definitely tell you the impact.
I don't want to interrupt. I have to say something real quick. Do we believe what the book says, that we're going to have plagues in the future? Maybe none of those plagues are going to be on us. That's maybe above my pay grade, but here's the point. if we know, like he's talking about, all this stuff that we have now that MRSA is killing people in hospitals, and I'll turn that back over to him, but think of your ability to stay clean and have hygiene now, and how much the value of this is going to be, because this can fight these things like MRSA. I'm just saying, I believe what the book says. I believe there's going to be plagues that take out huge swaths of the population. It's happened in the past, even if there wasn't a book that tells us this.
I agree. Yes. And so the other oils in there are antiviral, which would be the citrus oils, wild orange. So it covers the whole gamut. So it is a broad-based, natural antibacterial, antiviral agent. So you can use it as a prophylactic. So I take 2 drops in the morning, 2 at night. That's simple. Excuse me. And this doesn't have to be complicated. It's very simple. You use the oils daily. If your children are irritable, you can use lavender to calm them down. I mean, I heard a baby the other night that was just wailing, and I wanted to come up, and the baby was really young. I wanted to come up and knock and talk through the tent and say, hey, are you open to it? But it was so late, and trying to educate somebody at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night about the oils in the dark is not the best time to do it. And so I didn't want to overstep my bounds, but I definitely wanted to help her. And I was like, wow. So what did I do? I turn on my music, and I'm praising the Lord. I'm like, okay, I pray that baby can get some sleep tonight, because I know the parents are not going to get any sleep. But lavender would have been extremely effective in calming the baby down, and also calming the parents too. And so they are very simple, and you don't have, and guys, this isn't just foo-foo for women. I promise you, it's not sick. Okay, there are over 40,000 studies on PubMed that will describe how the oils have been used for thousands of years. So, and since we were talking about hormones earlier, there's also oils. I get men come up to me saying, I have a friend who has a problem. What do you have for that? Right? When you talk about ED, and I gave this one gentleman the oil, a blend of oils. He came back later, about a week later, and said, that was incredible. I love that stuff. Can I get some more? I said, what happened about your friend? He said, oh. So it's a joke. I've always wanted to do a YouTube skit talking about that with guys who are so proud. But the oils have broad-based application to a young baby all the way up to a 90-year-old senior. It has every application in between. And so along with the emergency oils, on guard, you use it on a daily basis. If you get sick or you procrastinate or you didn't have the oils in the first place, and now you have to use a stronger one, you can continue with on guard, but now you may be using things like Melissa or Melaleuca. And the top 2, if you can only get 2 oils other than on guard, would be cinnamon and oregano. Those 2 conquer all 4 parasites, fungus, bacteria, and viruses. You do those 2 and you will be able to counter those. So for the last 8 years, I have been buying one of those 2 every month. So I have a huge stash, and people are like, you like oregano that much? I'm like, no, I don't like it that much. It's hot. It's very, very hot. But I don't have to worry about infection. It will kill parasites, whether you've dealt with trichinosis, and you know the pig worm, right? So you have friends and relatives that are not believers, and they're still eating the pig. What happens is the likelihood of them having trichinosis is very high. And so you do not want to have parasites going into a crisis, because that parasite is eating your food and also eating you. And so it's causing you to have malnutrition, and it's also impacting your immune system. So if you can eliminate them now while everything's perfect, that's the time to do it. Get rid of those things. And the vast majority of Americans have parasites, but these are not the long tapeworms that are 30 feet long. And those do exist, but what I'm talking about, most of Americans have the microscopic ones. So these are the ones you can't see on scopes, but can still affect you, and they still have impact on your digestive system and your mood, and they really present in forms of like psoriasis and eczema, hookworm and pinworm. They can actually be displayed on the skin. So, you know, it is important to eliminate parasites. So oregano and cinnamon are 2 that I would highly recommend if you can only get those 2, especially if you're concerned about worst case scenario, those 2 for sure. Cinnamon is they come in So here's cinnamon and oregano. So these bottles, you're like, well, are these expensive? They're typically about 3 to 10 cents a drop. This one has 250 drops in it, and cinnamon has, on all the smaller ones, these are 5 milliliter, these have 85 drops per bottle. So if you're only taking 2 drops of On Guard a day in the morning and at night, you know, if you have a family of 4, how many drops is that a day for all 4 of you? How many? It's more than 8. If you're taking 2 in the morning and 2 at night, so 4 a day. Yes. So if you don't have to have a sick family member and you don't have to break off work to go home and attend a child who's not in school, and how many times do they prevent kids from coming to school? Does anybody go to the school system and like you bring a sick kid, they're like, no, take them home? Does that happen here in the South?
Oh, yeah. Yes,
okay. So think about it. Now somebody's at home, or you're paying a nanny or someone else, or you have to call your sister, your mom, and say, hey, can you watch my child? I got to go to work. So now you're wasting time when something as simple as 2 drops a day can prevent you from wasting time driving across town, or worse yet, having your child puking up and having diarrhea. Because how many parents like to see their children suffering? If that's for 15 cents a day, is it worth going through that anguish to have your children suffering because you were like, I'd rather have my Starbucks instead of having my kid being healthy? Okay? And it may sound, what's that? I agree. So the oils are very simple to use. Now oregano, there are oils that are more sensitive than others. So oregano, lemongrass, they are considered hot oils. And so they don't burn, they're not caustic, they're just so powerful. These are anywhere from 50 to 70 times more concentrated than the underlying herb. So when you take oregano, you can either use it in a diluted state by mixing it with like fractionated coconut oil, or any other preferably organic oil, and that especially for, say, he has a rash on his back. Okay, it's all attached with he laid down on some poison ivy, so now he's itching incessantly. So you can mix the oils with a carrier oil, that's what they call them, and then spread it around his entire back, whether it's your child who has a rash because of whatever issue. But that's when you'd use it, when it's either hot or you have to cover a large area. But for the most part, you can just put it on the bottom of your feet, put it on your wrist. If you want to do a diffuser, you can do that. You can also just touch it to your nose, and then your nose becomes a diffuser. So it's pretty simple to use the oils. And the main 3 ways are capsules. Yes, you can do yes, you can do capsules. There are gel caps that are not pork, and you pull them apart. You drip the oils in there, put them together, swallow. Very easy. What's that? Yes, veggie capsules. And so you probably seen them at the pharmacies. They have them. They're $4. The doTerra has them as well. They're pig-free, and so those is another way to get a massive amount of oils in, and you can bypass the gag reflex, and especially with children and seniors, if it becomes an issue. So it's pretty simple. So the main 3 ways that people take them are internally, topically, and orally. Aromatically. So that's the main way. But you can also cook with the oils, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. And I want to make sure we get some books, some recipe books in the library here. So actually some of the sisters and other people who want to cook with it at home, they can go to the library, take a picture of the page, take it home and make it. But think about this. If you like to cook and you don't have your favorite basil or cilantro or rosemary, and it's under 3 feet of snow, and your garden is closed for the season, you can just pull out the oils and you can put them in the dinner, and you just need really small amounts. If you put too much in there, I promise you'll be like, wow, that spaghetti was just all oregano, and I couldn't taste anything else. My tongue is still hot, even though there's no peppers in there. So be very sparing with the oils when it comes to cooking. Respiratory problems. You're going to have people, when there's massive amounts of people together, breathing becomes an issue, because that's how you get the airborne pneumonia, both bacteria and viral-based issues. And when we were talking about waterborne, cholera, dysentery, those are the bacteria that you're concerned about when people do not use the restroom far away from the camp, or if you only have a retreat, they don't bury it. So now you're worried about having those fecal issues in your food, in your water, and people can expire just as easily from those tainted water as they can from any other infection. So the oils that you'd use for stomach issues, pretty much from this mouth to that hole, from this hole to that hole, okay? Your entire digestive tract would be digested. So what's in there is peppermint, fennel, caraway seeds, and all those oils, ginger, those are naturally anti-nausea, anti-vomiting, and your body knows what homeostasis is. So it knows you shouldn't be on the toilet for 5 hours, nor should you be constipated for 2 days. I've seen the oils. There was a grandmother, there was a child approximately his age. He had some mental block of using the restroom. So he started becoming constipated. The first time they went in and they surgically opened him up to eliminate that. And then a year later, he had that same problem again. And his grandmother called me and said, I don't want to do that again. I'm tired of him going under the knife for something as simple as going to the bathroom. So I said, you have Digestive? She said, yes. I said, pull it out, put it in his belly button every hour. And she was supposed to go under the knife the next day. He didn't have to. She said, that is miraculous. I said, I know it is. I've been trying to tell everybody about it for the last 8 years. The oils are powerful. And so something as simple as that. The child didn't have to go through surgery. He didn't have the trauma of going into a hospital, being sedated and knocked out, and then being cut open to eliminate something as simple as a natural bowel movement. And how would you feel if that was your own child? Would that get your attention to think, wow, here's an oil that costs less than, the whole bottle's less than $21, but I don't have to go spend a whole day in a hospital, and my son is sedated with drugs that I don't know what they have in there, and he may get infection because you may have heard of MRSA. There's pertaining to hospital-acquired MRSA, and now there's one called community-acquired MRSA, which is much more prominent now than it was before. Before, it was only exclusive to the hospitals. Now, it's in the public arena, and everybody has access to it. So you can get it still out in the street from people you don't know just by touching objects. So it is important that you wash your hands on a regular basis. The stronger your immune system is, the less likely you can be impacted by it. But again, if you get sick, there's one called On Guard Plus, and I talked about it yesterday. So it has the same oils that are in On Guard, but they beefed it up a bunch, and they put oregano and melissa and black pepper in it. And so in this case, if you let yourself get sick or somebody else gets sick, you take this maybe once every half hour, and the oils will be metabolized by your body. Yesterday's example was peppermint. It has a half-life in your body. So you put one drop, your body will consume that oil in a half an hour, and there'll only be half of it left. Different oils have different metabolic rates of absorption. But in this case, when people are sick and now they're about to go to a hospital and spend lots of money on deductible, waste of time from work, waste of time from their family, they may... How many times have you wasted sick pay, right? You may not... How often... Okay, let me ask you this. How many people have been sick in the last month? Raise your hand. Go ahead, raise it high. I'm not judging at all, okay? How about the last 2 months? Okay? So, did any of you lose work or lose pay because of that? Or do you have sick pay? If you're sick and you don't show up, do you get paid? Okay, so if you're salary, it doesn't matter, you're right? Right? But how many people are salary? If you're salary, awesome. Your salary? Okay, so great. How long, if you're sick for 2 months, will you still get paid? Exactly. So being sick has a financial impact on your life as well. So if it's not, if you're dealing with sick pay, if you're dealing with away from not only yourself but children, and if you have to now take time off work to go collect your child from school, or if that's where they got sick in the first place. So you can see, have you ever gone to schools and it's just like a breeding ground? You go in and everybody's just dripping like, I don't want to leave my child here. I'm going to take him home, right? Because it's just like a sick factory. So you don't have to, it's not convenient for you to go somewhere else and drop them off at a different location because you have everything set up. But if you have to deal with sickness by your own choice, that's pretty sad as compared to being surprised. So this is what happens. You use these oils, you just swallow the whole thing. You don't have to worry about the oregano burning you. It just goes down your throat. And when I've had people in the hospital and they were hooked up to IVs, and their relatives have asked me, can you help my parent because they're not responding to vancomycin, which was one of the top 3 drugs in the world for antibacterial issues. And so when they don't respond to that, you realize that's a life-threatening illness. And the number of people who die here in America, I will make it a point to get the infectious numbers for you. So you can see that this is not a third world country. The number of people who die in a hospital from a bacterial viral issue, I'll get you those numbers later tonight, and you'll be able to read this, and I'll also give you the link, and I'll make sure it'll be added to the email broadcast, so you can see this stuff, this information firsthand. So that is the On Guard series. That's one you take as a prophylactic, but if you get sick, then you take this one as it's already too late. I've gotten sick and I need to start taking this. So this is another one I stock up on. But as long as you have oregano and cinnamon, you've already covered that base. I just have this for people for convenience so they can say, here, give this to Grandpa. And this is what he does. So it's pretty simple to use that one. Yeah, so with the On Guard, think about it. How many of you have toothpaste that has fluoride in it? Okay, you know that fluoride is what they use as a dumbing down agent in the concentration camps in World War II. It makes people docile. It is so bad that the only country in the world that is banned it completely is Israel. I was there 2 years ago, and I found out that they don't fluoridate their water at all. They've learned from the camps, it's a bad thing. And it does not impact the tooth impact. You're like, well, I'm going to have strong teeth. Fluoride does not do that. It is more corroborated and confirmed than even the vaccines. And we can go down vaccines, but that's going to be a long time. But just to suffice to say that you can find this information. They had to get rid of fluoride. It's a byproduct of the aluminum industry, and they could not get rid of this poison. If you look it up, you'll see it's in the top 10 poisonous things in the world. But what do? They put it in water to get rid of this toxin that they can't just dump on the land. So please research that, and you'll find out the history. Alcoa is the name of the company, the aluminum company of America. They had to get rid of this toxin, and that's how they did it. They pumped it in water. The first ADA, the American Dental Association director, said, no, we do not want to put that toxin in the water. The powers that be, back in the 20s and 30s, said, eliminate that guy. So he was pushed out of office. The next one came in. He was he was subsidized by the drug companies. And Alcoa, because think about it, if you have to get rid of a toxin and it's building up in your backyard, it's easier to dump it in the water. And that's what's happened. And so you see that down in the dining room, it has that British Berkey, that filter. It's actually a purifier. It's a log 6 purifier. That means 99.99999% it eliminates the toxins. And if you have the bottom elements, it also gets rid of cadmium, mercury, lead, all the heavy metals. But it does not remove the minerals that are necessary for life. And so I have those in mass. I also have them individually. And so that one is a crown filter, the same one I have at home. That one is quite pricey. It's 300 and change, I believe. And so I was reluctant to buy it, but it is very effective. In an emergency, when all you have is dirty water, you would strain it, you would boil it, and you could dump it in there once it's cool. But even if you couldn't boil it, you could still strain it and put it in there. You would just have to clean those filters on a regular basis. And so they have 2 different types of filters with those Berkeys. There's the white filters and the black filters. The black ones are reusable. You can take them out, scrub them down with the Scotchgard, and use them again. Scotch-Brite. Whereas the white ones have a limited life. So if you're going to buy any for your own family and for your own retreats, if you don't live in the state or live on the land, I would definitely recommend having that at your house, because you can actually now have pure water, and that's going to be something that will be crucial, especially knowing that none of your water has bleach in it anymore. And so back with the On Guard, so this does not have fluoride in it, and that's crucial. And then imagine if you have to hump from here back to Dallas, and you want to make sure your dental health is still good. You can brush, even if you have to use your finger, or what the Indians use. What did they use for brushing their teeth? You remember what the old timers had before toothbrushes? What's that? Toothsticks, what else? Yes, twigs, yes. So you can use that. Yes, sir? Licorice, yeah, they use that as well, but he was saying twigs. They would use tree twigs, yes. So this is On Guard. They also have a sanitizing wipe. How many times you go into the stores and you see the alcohol, right? You see it like at Wally World, you walk in and you see the squirter. Okay, that's alcohol based. It's better than the triclosan. Triclosan, you know, the antibacterial, is so bad that the country of Canada has banned it completely. So if you're putting that on your children, they even now have it in 3,000 products. They have it in clothes now. So now you're absorbing it through your, just sweating, transdermally. You're like, well, it doesn't come from my clothes. Well, if oils can get in you, and gasoline and diesel can get in your body via the skin, because this is the largest organ you have in your entire body. And it is to protect you from the bacteria, but it still passes any kind of liquid or powder, into the bloodstream. So this is a On Guard sanitizing spray. And you can spray it on your hands if you're going through the stores instead of putting on triclosan. And triclosan is actually a hormone inhibitor, and that's why you're seeing more girls going into menstruous puberty as young as 8 years old now because of all the chemicals they're exposed to. And the boys are having the man boobs. Okay, I know it sounds disgusting, but it is affecting their hormones. That's how bad it is. So it is something that you should definitely, if you have it, I only use it as a fire starter, period. There's no other benefit for me in my eyes. You can use something as simple as hot water and lots of scrubbing if you don't have oils. But if you're going to use the triclosan, it is very toxic, and especially parents, eliminate that from your house. Even the state of Minnesota. Do we have anybody from there? Minnesota? They will not use any state funds for antibacterial soaps at all. They banned it. That's how bad it is. So if the state says it's verboten, there's a reason. So look that up. I saw that about 5 years ago. I'm like, wow, an American state knows it's bad, and they're matching it with their pocketbook. They're like, we're not going to waste money on this toxic thing. So this is what you can use to protect yourselves. What's that? Yeah, for wound care. You can use it for pre-irrigation of, say you have a gash, however it was caused. You got in a car accident, and now you have a whole hole. You want to get saline solution. You want to irrigate it powerfully with, pure water as much as possible, and if not, saline. But you can add the oils to the water as you irrigate. And whether you have access to a doctor, and how many of you are in the medical profession here? Please raise your hands. One, I see the people who are nodding their heads because they know about PubMed. Thank you, sir. And so, when you have to irrigate a wound of that magnitude, it takes a lot of water. And also a lot of bandages. How many of you have antibiotics at home in your medicine cabinet? So how old are they? When's the last time you've seen those? Okay. Now, did you have an emergency? That's why you knew about it? Okay. And so what is a typical expectation of the lifespan of those? Okay. And so how many of you have medicines or antibacterials or antibiotics that are in your medicine case and you haven't seen since the last time you opened it, since the last time somebody was sick? So those things, they don't go bad right off the bat. They start to drop off slowly over time. And the reason why the FDA wants you to eliminate them is because they want to get paid for the next purchase you make, the next time. So you can use them, but there's a couple of classes. Tetracycline becomes toxic after the expiration. So it's better that you just throw it in the trash, because if you don't and you use it after expiration, you're actually causing liver damage. So if you give it to your child now, you're making worse than they were before. You won't be killing the bacteria, but you're going to be hurting your child immensely. So they have an expiration, and they're less effective. Whereas the oils, they don't have a shelf life. As long as they're cool, dark, and dry, they last indefinitely. And the beadlets, you were talking about those. We have some beadlets as well, and that's just they're just a small container, and those are more convenient for people who don't like to have the hot oils. So you can just swallow the On Guard, and they're like little capsules. They're really small, and 3 of them make up 1 drop. So it's just a convenience factor. But that's the On Guard family of doTERRA. And so now with the burns, lavender is phenomenal for many things, but I think I'm gonna portray it in this way. One day into a crisis, what are your biggest concerns? Security, food, water, communication. So you see security at night out here, right? And they're here to protect us. Well, you think they're getting tired too? They're doing everything we do in the daytime, but now they're staying up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And some of them sit in a nice warm car. Do you think they're starting wanting to doze off too? It's like, oh, this feels so bad, right? So you can use peppermint as a stimulant to stay awake, okay? When I drive 14 hours from Denver to go to the places I go for lots of training, I take peppermint and water, and I just drink that nonstop, and I do the whole drive nonstop all night. And I prefer not to drive all night, but sometimes life occurs, and you have to do what you have to do. So I use peppermint to stay awake, but you can also use it even if you have indigestion, even though you put it in your mouth for focus and stimulant. It'll help you if you have diarrhea, if you have indigestion. It is also analgesic, so if you got hurt, you got a contusion, you got an impact in your body, you can put it on topically and you'll still have the benefit, but it'll still get to your mind too. And it's not like a drug, it's like a sniper rifle. It is shot, it only focuses on one thing. Whereas peppermint is more like a shotgun. It will address all those issues at the same time, even though you aren't expecting it. So even if you have a bacteria that you don't know about, and you have a headache, and you put peppermint on your temporal lobes, it'll still go through your bloodstream, help you with the headache, and it'll help you with your bacteria in your gut and your diarrhea at the same time. So the oils are not like a sniper rifle. It's not like a one-point device. It has multiple applications. So in that same night, they're trying to stay awake, but now they get off at 4 o'clock in the morning, and they have to go to sleep. So what would you use for sleep? Exactly. So you can take it topically, you can touch it to your nose, you can put it in the diffuser, however you want. You can also use Serenity, which is a combination, which is even more effective for sleep. Serenity has ylang-ylang and several other oils. It's phenomenal for sleep. I love it. When I go on my trips, I use it every day. And when I don't have it, I notice my sleep is really impacted. If for some reason I do not take it for one night, I'm tossing and turning. I don't sleep as well. My dreams are not vivid. There's a huge impact just by not having the oils when it comes to sleep. So yes, you'd be taking lavender for sleep, but also for burns. You get cut, you get burned, you can put it right on an open wound. It's an analgesic, so it'll take away the pain as well, and it'll disinfect it. So you can spray the On Guard sanitizing mist right into the open wound, irrigate it, close it up, put a bandage on there. Depending on what medical care you have access to, you can just go down there. But the first thing they're going to do is give you antibiotics. What are the repercussions of antibiotics? It kills all the probiotics in your gut. And I've yet to find a doctor said, you must take a probiotic because we're going to kill everything in your gut. They don't really, that's not their, it's not that, and it's sad, you think they would have that as a way to prevent them from coming back to your office, a month later? No, if you're healthy as a horse, do they get paid any money? If you're dead, do they get paid any money? No. But if you're in between there, it's over $2 trillion a year in America alone. So I really think we have the best traumatic system in the world, but when it comes to prevention, there's no money and there's no motivation. And the nurses and doctors, they do the best they can with what they have. But if they could keep us healthier longer based on diet and nutrition and exercise, they would have a lot less work to do, but they wouldn't get paid as much. And so it may sound callous and mean, but you got to look at the people by their fruits. And if the industry wants you to be sick, and that's why they get paid billions, that's why the drug companies, do you ever see them say, we want you to be off this in 2 months? No, they have no intention. They want you to be on the statins until you die. That is their goal. And that sounds really callous, but if you look at their marketing strategy, that's what they want you to do. You go down it one time and you stay on it forever. The opioids are the same way. It doesn't matter if it's Vicodin, Oxycontin, all those things are all cash cows for them. And that's what their goal is they want to separate you from your money, but they don't want you to die prematurely, because if you're dead, they don't have a market. So they want to keep you alive just long enough so you can pay them off for the next 30, 40 years. But your quality of life is not their concern whatsoever. So with lavender, there's so many different benefits. Calming, burns, scars, antihistamine. Matter of fact, there was a woman last night. She had taken some CBD oil, and the vast majority of CBD oil is synthetic. Okay, over 85%, 90% of it is synthetic. That means they can say on the bottle, pure, just like the essential oil companies can say pure, but all they need is 4%. That's the only standard. So they can have 4% rosemary in a bottle, and the rest is anything that they want to put in there. And they call that pure, and you believe that. And that's the standard. doTerra said, no, that one bottle of peppermint that you got to try yesterday, that was equivalent to 28 cups of peppermint tea. So that's why it was so potent. And you're like, well, my other stuff is not that strong. One drop is equivalent to 28 cups of peppermint tea. It takes over 400 pounds of biomass just of the peppermint leaves to make that one bottle. 400 pounds. So it's huge. And so doTerra, all of the single oils are only that. Eucalyptus, melaleuca, tea tree oil, all the oregano, that's all it is. It takes 600,000 petals to make rose oil. Rose is the highest frequency plant of anything on the planet. It is phenomenal. It is great for cancer, antidepressants. It's a natural aphrodisiac. There's so many benefits from rose. It is quite expensive, and it is a very uplifting for people who are dealing with cancer. It is phenomenal for them. The benefits for oncology patients is remarkable. And so when you know that oils can help your mood, whether you're depressed because your house just got washed down the road or down the river, Katrina occurred, a tornado happened, a fire, it was looted, emotions are going to go downhill bad. And that's where having hope in Yeshua is crucial, because it doesn't matter, you can lose everything, but if you lose hope in him, it's all is lost then. And there's a statement I've heard from some believers that said, yeah, you can live 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, 3 minutes without air, and 3 seconds without hope. And so it is crucial that you have the belief that you can get through with God's help for sure. And so I definitely want to make sure we remember that this is God's medicine cabinet, and all doTerra has done is put it in a bottle for your convenience. That's all it is. Lemon and grapefruit. I'm going to show you this. I have I got this from this morning's breakfast. And this is just a styrofoam cup. And here's some grapefruit. Now, grapefruit, this is the oil, not the juice. See, the oil is basic. It comes from the rind, the outside of the plant, whereas the juice is on the inside, the sour part, right? And then I'll continue on, and I'll come back to this. So when I put the oils on top of it, what I typically do is I put them in the water. I'm like, this is not what I really thought would be the best part of fatherhood, was cleaning up poop everywhere, right? And so I know it's part of fatherhood and motherhood, but to think about that when you're actually doing it and smelling it and getting on your clothes is not the most motivating thing. I'd rather be playing with a bike and teaching them how to ride a bike and having her play on a slide and picking up poop. So if they're not sick, you're happier and they're happier and things are much better. So with lemon, lemon and grapefruit are both phenomenal for cleansing. How many times have your children got a hold of a Sharpie written on the wall and you try to get it off with Goo Gone and all the other things? Has it been successful? Sharpie, I'm not talking the permanent markers. Yes, you use lemon, did it work? Exactly. So it's also good for children who have gum in their hair. Instead of cutting out big chunks of it, you can actually just use the lemon and grapefruit and it will coalesce it and pull it right out. So it works very well. And I didn't know about the lemon until I'd taken many classes, and these mothers said, yeah, I use this when kids get a hold of the Sharpies and the permanent markers. I'm like, wow, that's phenomenal. So lemon is great for cleaning. How many times do you see now new improved with lemon? They know how effective it is. It's a natural solvent. And so you can also put the lemon in the water. So if you're tired of just drinking plain water and you've already run out in a crisis, you've run out of all your pop and all the sweet drinks you have, you can add the oils in there for flavoring, but it also will cleanse your body of toxins at the same time. Okay, 2 minutes. So I'm going to pass this around. I'm going to give it 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and you're going to actually see there's going to be a hole down there. But I'm going to pass around. You guys can see it. So I'm just going to leave it here. And it is dissolving it. It's not an acid, and it's not a base. What happens is the citrus oils naturally dissolve petrochemicals. So if you put lemon, grapefruit in a water bottle, even though the water may be great for you, it's going to actually start dissolving the inside of this bottle. So now you're taking all the toxins in there. You've heard of the phthalates, you've heard of those, BPA free and all that. Well, it's going to now extract and leach those things out into your water, then now you're drinking the toxins. So don't add it to a plastic container. Only put it in glass or stainless steel. Those are the two things if you want to drink the oils. When I drink, have coffee, porcelain cups the same way. It's not a problem. But don't put it in plastic, because now you're actually causing toxin to be put in your body more than you already have in your Doritos and all the other junk food that's out there. So the citrus oils are great for cleansing. So you can take that, and when you're walking your buggy out, you can put the oils in your bug out container and use it. It's a lot more flavorful than just plain water, especially if it's boiled water. Boiled water, unless you shake it up, it won't be oxygenated. It's going to be very flat. It's going to taste terrible. But when you oxygenate it, you let it cool down, you can do that. But when you add the oils, it definitely improves the flavor. And you may have heard of diet fatigue. Has anyone ever heard of diet fatigue? Yeah, that's what happened during the World War II. There were young children and seniors that were under the subways. The Germans were bombing them in London, right? And they were eating the same old food every day in and out. Nighttime, breakfast, the same nasty food. And you're like, well, that's the only food they had. You're right. So it got to the point that the children and the seniors were like, I'm not going to eat anymore. And they just starved to death. And so diet fatigue is crucial. So when having these oils, rosemary, peppermint, cardamom, cilantro, the whole list of culinary herbs, you can add those to foods and drinks, and it will change your flavor profile drastically. So you don't have to have that fatigue issue. Hopefully in your freeze-dried food, MREs, C-Rats, whatever you want to call them, you have some different spices, so you can change it, because it's going to get really boring if you're eating the same old food constantly that doesn't have any change in flavor. Lemongrass. So with that woman from last night, she was having a histamine reaction. Her eyes became bloodshot. Her ears had serious drainage, and her face started breaking out. And that was because she had acquired a synthetic CBD oil that impacted her whole demeanor. And so it was very evident. So I gave her some lavender and the other oils that were listed for allergies. So she was attributing this whole issue to allergies. It wasn't based on, it looked more like it was an impact because her eyes were swollen and she had a huge skin reaction on her face. And it looked more like a trauma. And she said, no, it was an allergy. So then what happens? We did that. I'm gonna look her up today and actually see the before and after. And we took pictures. And so if I have to crop out her face and her eyes so you can see the before and after, we'll do that. But her husband's quite excited about it because he saw the impact and he asked her before I left, do you feel a difference? And she talked about her ears feeling better, but more importantly, her eyes. That's my concern, is because if it starts to swell up and she starts having issues with anaphylactic shock, if you've heard of that, that can kill. Anaphylactic shock is something you don't mess with, especially when it starts to get with the respiratory system. It'll close up, they start to asphyxiate, and now you start to do a crike, or you have to do a chest tube, and that really gets bad. And so that's not a way to love on your children. Melaleuca. Melaleuca is phenomenal for any kind of skin-related issue. So you have a cut, abrasion, and not a super duper bleeding cut, but you put it on, and you can smear it on, and drop it on, and just cover it up. And so what the Melaleuca does, it will protect your skin, and it will kill the antiviral and antibacterial. And so Melaleuca it's probably the most medicinal smelling oil of the ones we have, and that one has so most of them smell great. Melaleuca to me smells like a medicine cabinet. It just smells straight up. It's tea tree oil, that's another name for it. It's phenomenal. That's why you'll see Melaleuca in hair care products, because it kills the dandruff, and it eliminates dandruff. So you can use Melaleuca in that capacity. Anything related to your skin, you can put lavender on there for burns, cuts, scrapes, and Melaleuca, those two together, and you're good. You won't have to really do anything else pertaining to the skin when you have Melaleuca. Oregano, this one says maintain healthy respiratory function, diffuse it, healthy digestion. I just use oregano for parasites. If somebody's really sick, I put it on the bottom of their feet because it is so effective in getting rid of parasites and getting rid of colds and flus, because it is very antiviral. That one again, and what was the other one I told you? Cinnamon. Those are the two. If you can only have two in your bug out bag, have those two. But the ones I'd highly recommend are be deep blue for pain, because if you're having a walk and now you have 4 people in your family and you have to lug them along with you and they're tired, and now you have to pick them up and carry your child as you're leaving town, whether it's due to Katrina, Joplin, Missouri, tornado, a F5. I went there a year later. This place was still trashed out. I talked to a woman who worked in a hospital. She was fired because the whole hospital was closed. It moved this building 50 times the size of this, 5 inches off its blocks. And I went up there and took pictures. And she was a security guard. She was a nurse, and now she's a security guard. One tornado affected her life, and she didn't get back into the industry. She lost her, her certifications, and after that, it all went downhill. And so, many people, will discount the power of a tornado, but in her life, it changed her life drastically. That was the end of the world as she knew it. And so, the next one, after digestion, that was the one for everything digestive. So in this case, if you have diarrhea, what's the opposite of diarrhea? Yes, like the little boy. So your body knows what homeostasis is. And these oils, if you have too much flow, it'll help stop you. If you are constipated, it'll help you get going. And people say, well, how is that the case? My drugs only do one thing, and that's because they are pharmaceutical drugs. This is God's medicine, and this is one statement I made years ago, is God doesn't make mistakes, and he doesn't do side effects. Thank you. So digestion is one I would definitely recommend to have in your kit. Breathe is another one. So it'll help you. You saw how powerful peppermint was yesterday? Breathe is very similar, but breathe will not keep you up. Even though it has peppermint in there, you can take it right before going to sleep, and it will open up your nasal cavity. I've had many people approach me saying, I have this respiratory drip, post-nasal drip, whatever they want to call it. And you can use breathe, either in a diffuser, you can stick it in your nose. They even have a rub that you can put on your chest, and you breathe it. It volatilizes off and into your nose, so your chest becomes a diffuser. So you can do that any way you want. Breathe is really topical. You have to take that internally or even in a gel cap. You put it right on the chest, and it helps. And Purify. Purify is a blend that you use for like bites, insect bites, stings. I've had people who've had brown recluse and black widow bites, and so they have that expanding, target, necrosis, and this woman, hers was so bad that she, the doctor said, do this, and this, and come back in 2 weeks. And I said, he really told you that? And he said, did he take any pictures of it to show you an expansion? Did he put a quarter so you can see if it's getting larger or not? He said, no. I said, what kind of objective doctor wouldn't do something like that? Break out your camera, take a picture of it, and send it to me now. Because think about it. If you have a baseline, you know where it's going. Is it getting better or is it getting worse? Well, obviously, if it's the size of this O, and then it's the size of my head the next day, it's getting worse, right? But the doctor he said, come back in 2 weeks. Well, she could conceivably have died in that time frame because of how bad some brown recluses are. And so Purify is very effective, and there were several other oils, but that was the first one I had her use immediately. And I said, put that on every 20, 30 minutes. And so it started going in there, and it's a compilation of many oils. And in there, inside Purify, it is phenomenal for insect bites, stings, and I've even had people who've had punctures from snake bites, and they used it. Because 25% of all the rattlesnake bites actually envenomate you. That means they put the poison in there. And some of them are not completely life-threatening, but all of them are puncture wounds now. So you're dealing with things like tetanus and all the other bacterial infections that can be attached to snakes. So what's in Purify is lemon, lime, pine oil, citronella, melaleuca, and cilantro. So this is what she used for that brown recluse fight. They gave her some chemicals for 4 days, nothing worked, and then she called me because she was getting frantic, and she said, I am not happy with my doctor. I said, did you go to another one? No. So if you have any issues, you aren't confident in your medical practitioner, get a second opinion. If they are offended, whose life is it, yours or theirs? Is it your child's life or is it their life? You know why medical has gone through the roof? It's because of malpractice suits. We still have some of the best medicine in the world, but if they make a mistake and you sue them for $20 million, what do? Is they just pass on all those deductibles to us. They pass on those expenses, and that's why we have such a high expense. Even though in the list of quality worldwide, there's a WHO, World Health Organization listing, and America's in the bottom 33. And so when it comes to that, Cuba is actually above us. Estonia is above us. And who? I don't even know who these countries are, and they're above us medically. And so you can look up this list of all the countries, and even though we spend the most on medicine, we in the world, in the WHO's eyes, we don't have the best quality medicine. And so Purify is a very easy one to use. So matter of fact, did you give this to your daughter who had the bite on her head? Okay, I would definitely do that. And there was someone else who had an insect bite, and it was pretty nasty for her. So she was itching incessantly, and so now she's starting to tear up her skin. So now she's doing what? She's going to induce more damage to her organ. Yes.
A week a week before the feast, I ended up getting bit by a spider when I was in the woods underneath my arm. It was real painful. I felt sick for the rest of the day. And I remember I had frankincense and myrrh back at the house, so I put frankincense and myrrh. I had the target and everything. In like 2-3 days, it was just gone. And yeah, so I didn't get to see it, but it freaking hurt. Yeah.
The number of amputations attached to black widows and brown recluse are incredible, and they're not specific to any location in America. And one that you guys probably have a lot of here are ticks, right? How many of you have been impacted by Lyme's disease? I mean, I know a woman, her granddaughter lost her job that she'd worked for in California for 15 years. She was making like 60 grand. It affects your brain. And I'm sorry, I was priming last night. I have to get it done before the rain. That's why I'm all painted up. I didn't get a chance. I'm going to actually put some of the oils on to get rid of this. But what this woman had, it's called limey brain. Once you get bit by the tick, it's called a spirochete. It's a parasite that gets in your body, and it gets into your nervine system, and it will affect your brain considerably. And they call it limey brain. It's a foggy. This woman can no longer drive, so she lost her job of $60,000 because of something as simple as a tick bite. And it can be devastating. And there's many people and it's becoming more and more prominent now. I've met many people who've contacted me saying these are the issues. So I'm getting right into tertiary. That's what I was trying to lead into. So to prevent yourself from getting bit in the first place, whether they're ticks, whether they're spiders, and one thing that was good about peppermint, you can put peppermint around your house, and the menthol, that the effervescent feeling that you felt with the peppermint yesterday, spiders do not like that. So it is very much a repellent. Spiders don't like that. I know you two have seen it, but I want you to pass it by. And so that is the grapefruit. What it does is it extracts the petrochemicals from the cup. Yeah, pass it this way so everybody gets a chance to see. And so, look at my hand. You saw it was my left hand? So I didn't dissolve, and that's because I'm carbon-based. Plants are carbon-based. All of God's creatures are carbon-based. But these chemicals that you drink and when you drink hot cocoa, you start to leach out those. All the chemicals, when they get heated up, they get into the liquid much faster. Hot cocoa, hot coffee, hot lemonade, hot cider, whatever you want to call. So that's why, if you can drink out of glass and stainless steel, all the better. I'd rather drink out of a wax cup than drink out of these cups, per se. Yeah, wax, the wax cups? So those are better for you in that regard. So Terra Shield. I'm sorry, does anyone have any other questions? I'm going to pass it around, and if you can look at it, stick your finger on there. And so what it's done is it dissolved the petrochemicals, and that's why grapefruit is in our Slim and Sassy. That is a metabolic blend, and it extracts toxins from your body. So if you want to do a liver cleanse and you want to clean your body out of toxins, which Americans have we're exposed to 85,000 different chemicals in America. And so depending on what field you work in, it may be much higher. You may have toluene, xylene. We can just go down a list of all the poisons. Acetone. And those can be breathed in. They're in the water system, and so you're consuming in one way or the other. And so when you can use the lemon, it'll help take these toxins out of your body. But on the limey note, or the Lyme's disease and mosquitoes, Terra Shield, you can spray right on your skin. And unlike the DEET that you see in off and other items, you can spray this right on your skin. And what the chemical company wants you to do, and if you read on it, it says put the DEET only on the clothes. But how many parents have seen, or how many of you have seen parents at parks, and they're just shh at the whole body, right, the face, and it's in my eye, I can't see, right? It dissolves rubber. That's how bad it is. And they put it on, and the companies don't want to get sued because they know how bad it is for the liver for the children. And children absorb the toxins much more readily than than adults do. So it is much more catastrophic for their immune system. So you spray this on. I especially do your ears and any place that's exposed. If you ever had, all the better. Long sleeve long clothes. If you have boots, that's why you see the military. What do? Shave themselves bald, and they wear the big boots with the cuffs that protect them, because they may be in a jungle where they're dealing with poisonous snakes like the fertile ants in South America, as well as scorpions in Iraq and in other desert theater. And so if you can protect yourself by using something as simple as a aerosolize or just a spray bottle. So what's in here? And just in the last 2 months, we've added more. So we have now we have lemon, eucalyptus, and I would assume it's going to be added to this, but I'm just reading the contents of this. So there's fractionated coconut oil. That's why you see that. So it's a carrier, so you can smear it on your entire body wherever you need to. It won't stain your clothing. So in this case, ylang ylang. See, I'm trying to read it, and it's all the scientific, the species name. So ylang ylang. And here, remember age? I'm going to have to do this now, okay? And we do have oils that are helpful for eyes, and I've had these glasses since I was 7 years old, and I would love to start applying them to my eyes the way I should be, so I can throw these things in the trash. And I have not, and I can afford to get LASIK surgery, but I only have 2 eyes, and with 0.001% problems with laser surgery, if they make a mistake and I have 1 eye, that will affect my life forever. So there are some things I'm not going to take a chance on. Even though they're very good, I'm not taking a chance with my eyeballs when it comes to that. So juniper, cedarwood, catnip oil, tanamu, ylang ylang, eucalyptus or lemon eucalyptus, litsea, vanilla, and arbor vitae. And arbor vitae is a wood that they call it the tree of life. And it is so effective in being antibacterial and anti-parasitic and anti-insecticide that a tree can fall down and it can be laying down on the ground for 500 years, and it looks as if you just cut it down last week. Animals don't eat it. It's extremely, it doesn't rot. It's just phenomenal. So arbor vitae is in here too. So you spray it on you can spray this on your skin. You can spray it on your clothes. I'd say put it on your skin, because then you get the health benefits on your skin. Don't waste it on your clothes. And unlike DEET or OFF or any of the other chemicals, I don't buy those because of the fact of how toxic they are. But I realize that in an emergency, and we don't have access to, the typical spraying and things like that, I have some, and I'm going to keep them. I'm not throwing them away. But for the people who don't know the magic of the oils, if they're like, I need to have some protection, and they want to stay in the world and keep using the drugs, it's totally up to them. If they're going to be, at our location, that's totally up to them if they want to use it. I'm not going to spray it on. I'm not going to spray the toxins on my children, but if they want to do it, that's their choice. I will spray it on the clothes. I'll spray it on the tents, but I'm not going to breathe it in and put it on my skin. So this is something that's very inexpensive. It's less than $10. You can have it in your bug out bag. It's very light, and it works very effectively. You may have to apply it maybe once every 4 or 5 hours, just like you have to apply DEET and other poisons, because it'll be absorbed into your skin. So what would you rather have? Something that is a known carcinogen sprayed onto your children, or something you can spray on and it still is antibacterial and antiviral, and it eliminates ticks, jiggers, no-see-ums, mosquitoes. Have you heard about the Brazilian super mosquito now? Have you heard about that? Go to Natural News. If you've never heard of that website, naturalnews.com. His name is Mike Adams. He's also called a health ranger. He has a multi-million-dollar atomic lab. He used to be on my team. Awesome man. He would tell the truth. 4 years ago, FDA said, look, because over 95% of all the money from the FDA, where does it come from? The drug companies directly. It's no longer from the government. It comes from the drug companies. So if they are losing $8 billion a year, do you think they lean on these guys saying, look, you need to stop this. We can't keep losing this money, and each year it keeps going up. And so what happens was they said, look, you can't say this on YouTube, you can't say it on your web pages, all the benefits of the oils, the way you've been saying it, unequivocally. And so they started leaning on it. We had Dr. Axe, you may have heard of him, he's on YouTube. He wasn't on my team, but he's an awesome man. He was with doTERRA as well. So Mike Adams and Dr. Axe, and they would talk about how they're anti-canceral, antiviral, antibacterial. And these are doctors and expert scientists. And what happens? They were given a short window to fix, quote, their errors of their ways. And Dr. Axe and Mike Adams said, I'm not going to lie to the American public. I don't care what they say. If you have to cut me out of doTERRA, go ahead. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to tell the people the truth, whether you like it or not. So they had to get terminated from my account, from the doTERRA account and from my team, because he's like, I'm not going to genuflect to the priests of the hospital or the banks, just so these Americans continue to die because of lack of knowledge. And so Mike Adams is a great guy. Dr. Axe, look up those two guys, and they still have the oils on their own, but they're not doTERRA's oils. And that's because doTERRA can't sell it to them anymore because they're telling the truth, and FDA says no. And so doTERRA is not going to stop benefiting everybody in the world because of two people. You understand that, right? So TerraShield is phenomenal for that. So when I was here back in Passover, I was getting bit up. And I was like, where's the rain? And I noticed here the first night, it was so cold. I was like, I don't see the bugs. This is really good. I like it here now. And then this morning or last night when I was doing I noticed the bugs were coming out. I was like, oh, don't wake them up again because I don't want to talk to them. This is good for before, so it prevents you from getting bit in the first place. That's where the Purify comes in. So, Purify, yes. That's the one that's for the itching, for chafing, any kind of insect-borne bites, whether they're flying insects, or that's where you'd use Purify initially. So you use Purify after you've gotten bitten if you didn't use this as a preventative. So this is the smartest way to go. So when you have the next feast or you're out in the summertime, spray it on in advance. So then your children are protected. And if they jump in the water, and depending on how much how rough and tough they are, they may wear it off. Just because of, it's a liquid. If I smear this on him, it's going to wipe off, and then that area won't be protected. So I go to town. So they're pretty simple. You only really need to have it on exposed flesh. So if you have your shorts on or whatever, and now ticks can crawl up, and I really wasn't worried about ticks before until I went to a place that a friend of mine has, and I had a tick on my back, and after talking to all these hundreds of people over the last 9 years that had tick problems and losing jobs, and they're really slow now because of how detrimental that pathogen is in their life. I had 2 on me, and I was very livid, and I was like, this is nasty. And so he hadn't bit me, but he was 4 millimeters, and it just made me think. So I was spraying the heck out of this for the next 3 days. I was walking through I'm like, and I tightened my pants, and I pretty much tightened everything up. So I wasn't about to be impacted by that. But another one I was going to try to tell you about is Brazil. They went GMO down there, and they thought they would, and Mike Adams even talked about that. So go online, and you'll see the super mosquito of Brazil, and he describes it, how these mosquitoes have now been genetically modified, and now they are superbugs. So now you heard 4 years ago, it's called microencephaly, in which small brain, the whole head there's over 3,000 cases of these children, and they're totally impacted now. Their brain is much smaller in relation to the size of the body. They have speech impediments. They are mentally, developmentally, in essence, retarded because of that. And so that was before the spraying. Now they have these superbugs. It's going to be much worse. And we're talking, that was 3,000 cases back then. And you see these mothers, and they're like, are they going to be okay? Are they going to grow to be normal? And the doctor just was crying, saying, there's nothing I can do. It's already too late. And this is 3,000 cases. It's not 4 or 5. This is catastrophic. And these bugs, we have dengue fever here in America now. In Florida, they have dengue fever. And so that's another disease that can also be passed through this Aegyptus. It's the AE. It's like the cockroach of mosquitoes. It can survive in the daytime, at night, cold. It only needs a cup of water, and it can breed thousands of them, and it doesn't die naturally. And so that species of spider, of mosquito, is now been super GMO'd in Brazil, and all they have to do is get on a tanker, bringing up fruit up to America, and it's going to be here. So just like a plane can take any bug, Ebola was brought to Atlanta, I remember years ago. It was brought to Atlanta by the president in the super duper planes. And so just like that has been brought ashore, I would venture to say with the super ships are going to be bringing this GMO insect to America. So that's something, that's a prognosis, yep. So that's TerraShield. Now, what I'm going to do is we'll open up for questions, but I do want to. Oh, deep blue. If you're having a walk, there's no electricity, and this is something I'm going to buy shortly. It's one of the old washers, the manual washers, and you're like, what the heck do you need one of those for? If your electricity doesn't work anymore and you want to have clean clothes, you're going to either be in the river or you're going to have those antique ones that were around. And I've seen a couple of them on YouTube, on eBay. And they're like, yes, the rainbow? Exactly. And so those, I'm going to buy one, and they're like $600. Yeah. But see, everybody in my crew is not going to want to be doing laundry when they're dealing with security and they're dealing with gardening and everything else. So you're like, well, he's got body armor. Why is he going to buy a blanket washer? Because I don't want to do laundry for the rest of my life by doing this, right? And I don't want anybody in my support group have to work unnecessarily hard than if we have the technology now to buy it, because that would be like a Cadillac or Lamborghini in all the support groups. The ladies would be like, you got me one of those? Oh, give me a hug, right? I'm not doing laundry forever, right? I like you. And so what I'm saying is that when there's not any electricity and you're going to have to do everything manually, you're going to be in pain. If you've walked 5 miles, if you walk 40 miles, deep blue is for pain. It's an oil. You can use the oil as a roll-on. You can also use it as a rub. The rub seems to go deeper and last longer. Sore neck, whatever the case is, it works very well. It has blue tansy, peppermint, helichrysum. There's many oils in there that are pain relievers. This is our most referred oil combo of anything we have. When people have pain and they pass it on, was it you? Yeah, go ahead. Tell me. He used it yesterday.
My wife was at the class yesterday, and I had back pains, and she came to the tent and put it on my back, and I walked up the hill with ease. It was gone. It works. And I have BioFreeze. It works better than BioFreeze.
Because it's natural. Yeah, I've had people say, well, it smells like icy hot. Well, icy hot is that chemical stuff again, right? And Bengay is another chemical version. Whereas these are the oils. And all we've done is put them in a rub that allows you to get them. And the stories attached to this are just phenomenal. So I would definitely recommend, if you have a bug out bag, to have this in your bag, so it allows you to move with more efficiency and less pain. So any questions you have right now, and there may be some other things I'm going to address, especially in the emergency aspect, because we're going to address some of these things in this medical kit. And so now we're talking about, we're going to go down the list of all the things you should have in your IFAC individual first aid kit. Now this is more of a platoon level kit. I mean, there's everything in there from chest tubes and OPAs and NPAs, and we can learn more about those briefly. And I'm just going to do an overview on those, but that'd be more of a emergency medical class. But what we're going to focus on is TCCC, the trauma casualty care, and that's what the military uses to keep people alive with gunshot wounds, IEDs, major arterial bleeding, exsanguination. And so I'll take a couple questions, and then anyone who has that paper that put their names on. Okay, you got it back. Okay, great. And so I will be here until Thursday night. So if you have any questions, feel free. We can sit down and talk. We can address your issues. If you have any diagnosis officially, that'd be the best way to go. Yes, yes. I understand. Yes, you notice it? Yes, ma'am. So, I understand. So he's indicating, but right now all the tests have not shown. So her son got bit by a tick years ago, and he's starting to express some of the issues we were talking about. So she and I are going to talk about this later, and I will give you the protocols that this other woman who had it, who worked with doTERRA, used, and it works very well. She has a whole webinar it's attached to it. Yes, ma'am. Now, when I first started with doTERRA back in 2011, none of the bottles had expiration dates on there. And because this is considered a food supplement, the FDA said, you better put that on there. So we put it on there, but that date that's on there is because of the FDA mandate. There, you'll see it on the bottom. And matter of fact, in this case, you'll see the code. It says expiration 2023-05. And they have it in just because of FDA. Just like on a water bottle, it has a expiration date on there. This is the same water that Jesus walked on in Galilee, right? So it doesn't expire. It may become fetid because, it's been sitting in, it has bacteria growing in it. But it's the same water. It'll steam, the whole water cycle. So it doesn't have an expiration date if it's pure water. And the rub, as far as I know, it's the same way. Yes, and you can always make the rub into the oil into a rub just by adding the oil to any kind of lotion. So if you don't have that, we have unscented lotion that people will make their own rubs, for massages, things like that. So that's a great way to do it. But yes, if you look on here, there's a date on this too, and that's because it's a food supplement and it's mandated. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes. Now, when you say diluted, you're talking about you diluting it with coconut oil or something like that? Okay. Mm-hmm. It's straight. I can tell someone. Yes. Right. Yeah, and see, that's what, over 85%, and this is confirmed by doTERRA and the entire industry, it's adulterated. That means they add their own liquids to extend it. So think about it. If a bottle of doTERRA frankincense oil retail is $93 for a bottle this size, and you see one at Wally World for 99 cents, do you think there's anything that's medicinal about something that's 99 cents? No. So what they do is dilute it, and they say here, they may say pure, they may say whatever they want on it. So those are vastly synthetic. So a gallon, yes. Yeah, I understand. That's still diluted. No. Other than, you can put it in the diffuser, so you can have and now you can have the aroma. My only concern is being synthetic. You know how some people are allergic to they'll get headaches from synthetic smells? And how many times have you smelled something, you're like, wow, that is all chemical, and it gives you a headache? That's the only challenge, is if you put it in here and you get any blowback or pushback because of, people are having headaches because of it, then I would say, yeah, I wouldn't use that. But if you kept the door shut, especially in the winter, you could just use doTERRA and use the Aroma Ace, the one that I gave past. Okay. Yes. And you see a difference qualitatively? Yes. Understand. Really? Uh-huh. Correct. Uh-huh. And see, with doTERRA, 95% of all of our sources are exclusive to doTERRA. So you'll hear people say, other companies saying, this is just like doTERRA. We had the same producers and growers. That's not the case. And every day, over 980,000 hours are spent by humans around the world, in Nepal, in Haiti. They are out there growing the vetiver and lemongrass and rose in Bulgaria. And so they're taking these oils, and so almost a million hours a day are spent producing the oils around the world in some form or function. So the oils are not the same by any stretch of imagination. Every one of these oils are tested by 2 different outside laboratories, and they test for things like microbes, heavy metals, chirality, which will show if it's synthetic. And the Mike Adams, people who know him, they have the same thing that we have. It's a multi-million-dollar tester, mass spectrograph and gas chromatograph, and they put it through there, and they can test for parts per billion, and certain ones can do parts per trillion. So they can see if there is any chemical in there that is not normal to frankincense. So they can know, boom. There was a special forces guy. He said, hey, I can get your company 150 liters of frankincense every month. And this was in the war-torn country of Somalia and Eritrea and Ethiopia. And this special forces guy said, I can fly in there, get this stuff, and get it out. I said, great, let's do that. Because if we can reduce our price and get all 3 or 4 species of frankincense, I want to do it. So he sent the sample via my contacts with the company to the sourcing agent. They tested it, and they said, this has been adulterated. They said, we don't want it. They just sent it back to them. So doTERRA is not going to accept it, regardless if it's from a special forces guy who's getting a rate right from the sources, because those middlemen get involved. And first of all, they don't pay the growers. There are people in the frankincense countries that have never been paid. They've worked, the ladies have done all those tiers for years and never been paid a dime. So the middlemen are terrible. Or they pay them here. They're supposed to get paid $500. They give them $20. These guys are pathetic. And doTERRA will pay people 5 years in advance saying, we want you to grow the purest. And we have bonuses saying, if you grow it if you pick it at this time, we get more of these limonene or the terpenes or whatever we're looking for. And so it takes less production for the same amount of, less growing for the same amount of production. So what I was going to say is that the companies will now, each middleman will add their own little, and they keep extending it. So it starts off at, 1 gallon, and by the time it gets to New York City, it's 50 gallons from that same one thing, because everybody keeps diluting it. And they keep the price the same, they just keep diluting it. And that's why, if you think that you can buy it at Wally World and get the same thing or buy it on Amazon, they're totally different. They will break these oils down to the point that they know everything about it. This one bottle of oregano, they keep evidentiary copies of every batch they make in a vault. And there was another company, a major rival, who said they made a claim against doTERRA, and he went up to the district court in the Midwestern range, and they brought out a bottle identical to it, and they tested it, and they found out that the company had lied blatantly, because we have all the records. And that's why doTerra does it, because they realize they are the 800-pound gorilla. They changed the entire industry. And the FDA has us in our sights because they realize that people don't want to have the drugs. They don't want to have the side effects. They don't want the expense. And because of that, we are a big target. Just like you guys are a target. That's why you have the security, because you realize that the heathen don't like it, and the evil ones definitely don't like what you guys are doing. And so we protect ourselves in that same capacity. By doing that is by keeping records, and that's all available. And if you see this little QR code I told you about, go take a picture of this, and you can find out everything about this specific bottle. If you have a camera, come up here and take a picture, and you can look at it online. Source to you. It'll automatically open up and tell you exactly what's in here. Yes, sir.
So I have a question about doTerra.
Yes? Uh-huh.
What stops us from
Making your own. Yeah, you can take the On Guard, put it in a glass jar, and spray it yourself. So you can do that. So they just made it to make it convenient. So yeah, I used to do the On Guard. I have a produce wash in which I have glass on my countertop. We have, yes. Oh yeah, that's his. That's mine. So what happens is, what I do is I make my own batch. So I use On Guard and grapefruit and lemon. And so I spray all the fruit and vegetables, spray it on there. I continue making dinner, wash it off. There's no bugs. If there was salmonella and E. coli and all the other nasty bugs, they're dead. Because, it kills them on contact, and it's better than bleach. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Yes, that's called the Herxheimer. Yes, the Herxheimer reaction. So when people are doing liver cleanses, if they're doing, that's why oregano. They only recommend you use oregano between 7 and 10 days, because it is so strong. And so when you're doing a parasitic cleanse, you're killing all the bugs that are in you. And what you have to do, if you have any good doctor, they'll tell you drink lots of water and walk. Because when you walk, that's the only system in your entire body that doesn't have a pump. It's the lymphatic system. So movement, massage therapy, if you can't move, that will get your blood flowing, and it will allow you to purge those. And Herxheimer reaction was discovered back in the 1600s by a German doctor named Herxheimer. And it found out that when you killed all these bacteria and viruses, it all became liberated into the bloodstream. So you'd have nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. Even though you were killing all these bugs, you had all their waste and their toxins in your bloodstream. So you'd have those. So you won't, unless you are completely infected and you're really bad, then you could do it for a day and stop. But I've had people do it, and as long as they drank lots of water and kept walking, the Herxheimer reaction was minimal. So you won't have that die off issue, unless you're extremely bad. And if that's the case, yeah, I would definitely get involved with that scenario. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Yes, remember I told you we're going to find out more information. As a matter of fact, here, I'll let you look at the book now, and then we can pursue this while you're here, okay? So you can look it up in the back, and if not, we'll go online if we have to. Yes, sir. Uh-huh. Bug up back. Uh-huh. Yes. Cool, dark, and dry. The biggest challenge with cars is, how many times you hear about the children that pass away because the parents left them in the store, and left them in the car, they went in, came back, and the car in the summertime can get up to 150 degrees, depending on what color it is, within a matter of 20 minutes. So if you're going to keep it in your car, especially in your bug out bag, make that your summer stash, and then use that when you get back in, because it will start to impact it. Heat is detrimental. You see how you feel when it's 100 degrees, right? You're sluggish. After 90 plus days of summertime heat, yeah, it'll start to have an impact. And if you do that, then take it out, put that in the diffuser, use it in that capacity. And so, yeah, you can still have it in your vehicle, but make sure you take those out. And just have smaller bottles. You can transfer these, and can I see some of those really small bottles? Yes. So, like these, these are sample bottles. Thank you. This one's not. This one. That's one thing that's important. You keep them tight. Because one time I tipped a bottle, I let somebody use some Frankincense, they put it on lightly, came back to me. I looked at it a week later. I lost half the bottle just because someone didn't keep it tight. So it'll evaporate if it's open. So as long as it's tight, that's not a problem. But in this case, you can put all the emergency oils into little bags. And you have that little bag too, the clip-on? I used to wear that every day. Here it is. So this is something I would have clipped on my bug out bag. I have one of these, and inside there you can have the 5. Now this would be more for like an individual's first aid kit. So you have these inside there, and you see these are larger than other ones, right? So this one can handle about 25 to 30 drops. So that'd be enough for a child if they're walking out with you, right? So you can have this and this. And so in this one they have breathe, lavender, melaleuca, oregano, elevation, lemon and digestion, and lemongrass. Lemongrass is probably one of the least expensive oils we have. It's 2 cents a drop. So if you're like, I can't afford the oils, most of the bottles are $20 to $30. Lemongrass is $10. They call it poor man's deep blue. It is phenomenal for pain, and especially in like ligaments and connective tissue tendons. It's phenomenal for that. Whereas deep blue is for more muscle and joints. So that is, that's an easy way of carrying the oils, is in a little piece like that. And then if you leave it in your car, you only lost a small amount. But you can still use those in a diffuser. They still smell great. You can still use them for cooking. Will they have 100% potency after being exposed to 150 degrees for 100 days? Not as much as the other bottle you had in the house that was cool. You understand? Yeah, no, we don't sell those specifically, but the company Aroma Tools, you can buy all the auxiliary things. These things, there's some up here. All of these are on Aroma Tools. If you email me directly, I have a lot of these that I've bought many of these. I have them in PDF format. I'll just send them to you so you can have those as well. So we'll make a point to do that as well. Yes, sir. Yeah, it's similar to Neosporin, except for it doesn't have any of the chemical side effects. But yes, this is called Correctex. Mm-hmm. Yes. Huh? Yes, sir. Remember back with the food aspect of anything that's medical has to have a expiration date. This one says expires 2020, 12/2020. That is the F-date mandate based on that. I will contact the company directly and look into it, and then can you remind me I'll make sure you put it in the newsletter, so when I find out the answer, I'll get it officially from the company, and I'll forward it to you so you can know the answer. Big time. And even if you don't have that Neosporin, I mean, it actually aids in regrowth. But if you have the oils, you can make your own version. You're going to cleanse the wound, and before you put the Band-Aid on, or the bandage, depending on the magnitude. If you're dealing with sutures or stitches or whatever, you irrigate it, put the oils in there, cover it up, and don't just keep looking under. I mean, many doctors will say, you look at it every 24 hours, depending on what the pathogen is. But sometimes just exposing it to, you've now introduced more bacteria. So that's why they have certain criteria how often you get in there. So you can make your own Neosporin, or doTERRA is called Correctex. And that is, it has On Guard in there, and it has several other oils and lavender to aid in the So this is, it says essential oil ointment, and they kept it small because of that same reason, so you could keep it in a bug out bag. But yes, if you have the oils, this is just a convenience way so people have that capacity, but you can use the oils yourself in that way without having to, always have this. And I've opened this up and used it twice. I have many of them, but I don't use it a lot because of the fact that my attitude is I already have the oil, so I put the oils in there as analgesic, peppermint and lavender, and takes away the pain. Period. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Remember Melaleuca, all the skin-related issues? Tea tree oil, yes. Yes, they're the same plant, but because of Melaleuca, there are different species. And so doTerra, this is the first time in 13 years I've seen them saying here on the bottle it says Melaleuca and tea tree. In the past it just said Melaleuca, period. No, you won't have to do that. You can, especially if they already have a lot of oil in their face as it is. So have them get rid of the sebaceous oil, all the gunk, right? Then you can put on the Melaleuca, and we have one that's called HD Clear that has a compilation, and that works phenomenal for it. HD Clear, yes. And matter of fact, I even have a bottle. Yes, and yes. And so when we were talking about Candida albicans, remember we talked about that yesterday? Yes. Yes, I know. So if you have issues with Candida albicans, come up here and you can take a picture of this if you like, or you can get one of these. But the vast majority of Americans have Candida. It's because the number of people have taken antibiotics in the last 20 years is huge. And so unless they really repopulated their gut, I consider Candida like squatters. If nobody's on the land, they'll come in here and they will take over. And so every food groups have Candida in it. It's in the water and it's in the air. You can't get rid of it. If there wasn't Candida, all the roadkill you'd see would still be out there, because Candida will dissolve and that fungus spore will actually eliminate those things. But if you have too much, if you have more than, the ratio is 4-to-1. If you have more than 20% Candida, it starts to be detrimental, and there's over 200 known symptoms attached to Candida. And if you email me, I'll send you this link, and you can read all the science. There's a lot of information, and it goes all the way up to cancer. The correlation with Candida and cancer is huge, and that's because too much sugar in the diet. Here we go again, sugar and salt. So,
if I can get Wi-Fi, I know there's a couple people that want to enroll and get a kit, and we're going to be doing that today if I can get Wi-Fi set up. Okay.
thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate it very much. I hope you learned something. If you have any more questions, come on up here. We'll answer more of them, especially for the specific ones that you have.